Which episode is it? Uh, which episode is it? Oh, we are recording, guys. Slightly out of focus. Episode four, three,
3.
2, 1.
three. This is the third time I think we are recording it, right, Stephen?
Yes, this is
And
3.
welcome everyone. We are back. There was a little bit of a longer break because we were busy, photographically busy. Stephen had an exhibition in Scott was out shooting all over the place.
In Scotland.
Scott went to Scotland.
Yep, had to go
Oh,
visit.
So anyway, I was on the streets as usual. So we are running around with our camera, but we are back. So thanks so much for tuning in. What should we talk about today? I mean, I have one idea. Stephen, just briefly. So how did the vernissage, the exhibition, the opening go?
It went well. I was dreading it, but it turned out to be a very nice experience. There was the small little gallery was packed, filled with lots of friends of photography and my friends, and I told them in my profession as a conductor, I can conduct 120 musicians on a stage, a 3-hour concert in front of 2,000 people and not blink an eye, and having to show these 30 people my 12 pictures caused me numerous sleepless nights. But it was a good experience.
Oh, it was nice. The opening, you printed the images, you framed them. I was there, a couple of days later. I saw it looked great.
But still, you think, so before it starts, when you start thinking, oh, I'm going to have to hang these pictures, are they worth anything? Does anyone really want to look at these?
Yep.
All this self-doubt started
Scott,
creeping
I
in.
was there. This is looking great, really.
Yeah, okay,
But, I have to go over, take some images of the photographs, and so great. How long are the pictures on the walls?
Up until the 7th of January.
Nice.
Very
So
good.
the entire Christmas season, New Year. This is also good.
Right.
People having some time.
Stephen,
Scott, we met in London. Yeah.
Well, I
Sorry,
was
go
going to say,
ahead.
Stephen, I don't know if you'll do this, but the last time I had a coffee shop show, a couple days after the opening, I just, I go there a lot to that shot, but I just sat down and I watched people looking at the pictures, and they didn't know that they were my pictures or anything else. And it was really fascinating to see which ones they linger at, which ones they just pass right by.
That's a good idea,
It's not consistent, per image. It says more about their reactions and their taste, but it's still a fascinating exercise to watch a public interact with your pictures when they think they are, by some definition, alone.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll try that.
Yeah. Scott, we met in London
We did.
for 25 minutes.
Oh, right.
Right? and then you went to Scotland with how was Scotland? I mean,
Scotland is magnificent, and I am in love with that country, always have been, and especially the Upper West Side, the Western Highlands are magnificent. There's no such thing as a bad photographic occasion up there, no matter how horrible the weather might be. The landscape is evocative and moody. The culture up there is welcoming. The food is great. It's just an absolute magnificent place to go, both to be a photographer and to get recharged as a photographer, to have the world present itself in such a way that you think. And even if somebody's taken the same picture of the same mountain 18,000 times, it never looks like the way it does when you're standing there. So you always get a chance to recreate.
I saw a couple of your images already from Scotland. They definitely don't look like all the other 17,000 images. Beautiful stuff.
I
No,
agree.
great stuff. Really great stuff. Make sure
thank
you send me a few later, so we'll embed them here, because this was the first trip, I guess, like a serious trip you did with your new X106.
Absolutely. I have been there many, many times with students, and we've walked what's called the West Highland Way. It's a 100-mile hiking trail. This is the first time that I've been there, not with a group of 18 to 22-year-olds, and with some other photographers. And as you know, I made sort of a big move in my gear life. Sold all my lenses, every bit of gear I had to get the X106, and it performed beautifully. That is for me, and that's the big caveat. That is for me a tremendous landscape camera.
So, I mean, did you feel like, because it's okay, one camera, one lens,
Yeah.
fixed lens, did you feel and it's mainly about landscape, I can imagine, right, in Scotland?
That's what I mean, some street photography when I was in town too, but for me on this trip, yes, it was all landscape.
And
So
is the lens, is that a fairly wide lens?
23, or I mean, roughly a 35 equivalent. But I've got a couple images that are wider than that because I simply know that Lightroom can stitch stuff together, and so that when you're composing in the field, and suddenly I've got the equivalent of a 10, simply because I went left or right and shot it that way.
and also there is, I guess, many locations where the actual landscape in front of you is just vast and wide.
Oh yeah,
So you can actually still create very very wide scenes, right?
Yeah. I mean, the camera does have a feature in it to create a panorama in camera. But you can also do that by stitching together. And the thing about Scotland is you could walk around with a 360-degree camera and still feel like you're missing stuff. You're always selecting, which is a good thing for photographers to say, here's my landscape. What in this am I going to frame and call out for the rest of the world?
Nice.
I've been having that problem this week. I'm taking a 2 weeks away from home. I'm on the Lake of Geneva here in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, up on a terrace that's about 600 feet above the lake, a village, and between the village and the lake are grapevines. It's just a constant fall.
I'm in heaven.
Fall off of grapevines, and but the view from here, you can see from the left end of Lake Geneva, and Lake Geneva is a huge lake, almost to Geneva on the other end. So you have this panorama that's like 180 degrees, and I first went out with my normal lens on my Hasselblad the other day, and also got great pictures. But then thought, well, the next time I'll take my super wide angle, and in order to try to get that feeling of this vastness, but was confronted by just what you mentioned. Should I concentrate on a section of this vastness, or should I try to convey the vastness, which is very difficult to do, I think, photographically.
Yep.
You know this one?
Yeah. I saw you using that in one of your videos.
No, I was just checking because this is a Ricoh GR, right? And it has a 18, right? Yeah, 18 millimeters on a cropped sensor, so it's around what? It's like 26 or something, 27. And yeah, also I love just walking with this these days. It's so liberating, just moving your feet when you have to, but that's it. And you just kind of start getting used to this focal length and just start seeing, through this kind of focal length. So, but okay, it's a different story on a street and completely different story when you're out there in a wilderness, in the landscape. I guess it's again, you have to also start getting used to it, right?
I do think we have instincts toward a certain focal length because, as I think I mentioned before, one of the reasons I went ahead and made the switch was I went on a road trip and I had an 18 to 140 on my old Nikon. Nearly every shot I took with that lens was somewhere in the mid 20s. When I would figure out the zoom I wanted, so that was a very natural length for me. No matter what I was looking at.
Mid 20s. Those times, This was when I was taking my best images.
A long time ago for all of us. Okay.
Although
Okay.
I did take this morning when I went out, I tried to get out before sunrise this morning to get a view of the lake with the clouds hanging over it. And I took actually a telephoto lens, a long lens, because I thought, well, that could also be a perspective to use a long lens on a sweeping landscape, which yeah also has its effect of kind of
Right.
compressing the view. But I ended up with using the wide all morning anyway.
Gentlemen, topic number one. Stephen, you go first, I think, today, yeah? Because,
Should I go first?
yeah, go first. You have something ready.
Okay, well, I've uh, I've been reading Sally Mann's first memoir from 2014, I think, Hold Still, and it's been a fascinating read about her life and her parents' life and her grandparents' life, and she addresses the scandal that she was involved in from taking pictures of her immediate family, uh, and addresses lots of issues. But she's a remarkable woman, and in her prologue, she brought up something that I've often also thought about before, but had never put into words the way she did. Her plan in writing the memoir was she went up into her family's attic and found a variety of boxes filled with letters and photographs and memorabilia from her mother's side and from her father's side, and her own little box of memories. And she was going to cut them open and look at them and read them in order to establish a narrative about her life and her family's life. And she made and if you don't mind, if I could read a few lines of what she wrote. She talks about what memories are. And she says, I tend to agree with the theory that if you want to keep a memory pristine, you must not call upon it too often. For each time it is revisited, you alter it irrevocably, remembering not the original impression left by the experience, but the last time you recalled it. And so it changes and constantly changes, and you don't know what was the original memory and what not. And then she goes on down a little bit later to talk about finally getting to opening up these boxes of memories and photographs with a little bit of trepidation, fearing what she calls the treachery of photography. And she writes, as far back as 1901, Émile Zola, he was a French novelist and journalist, telegraphed the threat of this relatively new medium, remarking that you cannot claim to have really seen something until you have photographed it. What Zola perhaps also knew or intuited was that once photographed, whatever you had really seen, in quotes, would never be seen by the eye of memory again. It would forever be cut from the continuum of, of being. She writes, photography would seem to preserve our past and make it invulnerable to the distortions of repeated memorial superimpositions. But I think that is a fallacy. Photographs supplant and corrupt the past, all the while creating their own memories, as I held my childhood pictures in my hand in the tenderness of my remembering, I also knew that with each photograph I was forgetting. So I don't know if you're able to follow those thoughts, kind of
Yeah.
complicated. But a fascinating idea, and I've thought of that also often, thinking of back in my own life. And number one, remembering that many of the memories I think I have come from photographs that my parents took of me and us that I've looked at over my lifetime. And I think that's my memory. And then I realized, oh no, that was a family photograph that I have assumed as my own memory. And the idea that if you, as soon as you photograph something, you have essentially cut off, eliminated the real memory of it forever. Interesting thought. I don't know if you have any reactions to that.
Scott, can I go?
Go for it.
It's interesting because and everybody watching it was really not pre-planned, but it's amazing because it kind of ties directly. I mean, this is what you know just quoted and you know and what you thought about to what I was kind of about to talk about. You know, as my topic for today a little bit,
Me too.
and also to a comment which I just read by you know coincidence this morning, I guess, under one of YouTube videos or somewhere. So first, what? Okay, I just go straight to my topic because really it connects. So I was about to talk about why recently, and you might have noticed it with my last week kind of images. I okay, what I was going to talk about is the moment, this moment, or you know, the time which is between the moment we notice something which we want to photograph, you know, whatever it might be, this first emotional reaction, and the moment where we actually press the shutter, right? And as we know, this time in between can be anywhere from basically a few, probably milliseconds, to, you know, 2 hours of pre-planning the shoot, setting up the tripods,
Or
you
two
know,
weeks, or
or
two
2 weeks,
weeks.
or a year, right? No, but, and then what I want to talk about is exactly what I have been recently, in the last maybe 2 weeks, very intensively experimenting with is shortening, for my own images, shortening the time between reacting to something and taking the image. Because, and then also, it's amazing stuff. Maybe you kind of attract things, you know, which you think about to yourself when you are kind of in this kind of, you know, a reflecting mode. Because this morning I saw a comment of someone on under one of the YouTube videos, and somebody wrote, "If it's not a memory, it can't be a photograph." Now, on another occasion, I was listening to an interview with Daido Moriyama, you know, the famous Japanese photographer, where he says, and he was exactly walking the streets, sometimes not even looking into the viewfinder or at the screen. He was seeing something, raising the camera roughly in the direction of the thing he noticed, and pressing the shutter within, you know, as fast as possible. And he said in one of his interviews also something about the memory, photography, which I loved. He said, "A photograph for me," this is a quote, I mean, I paraphrase it probably, but a photograph for me is not about documenting what was in front of the camera, in front of the lens. It's about capturing the feeling I was having inside the moment I was noticing it. So, okay, I went for way too long, but I am very much very close to the idea today, very, very close to the idea of a photograph being a record of my memory, of my feeling in this millisecond. And that's what I want my photographs to be these days, right? So I don't know if it ties in any way to what Mann was referring to, because she was suggesting.
She's saying that that a photograph kind of erases our natural memory of things. It becomes the memory.
I'm going to argue a completely different interpretation here, because I'm going to argue that there is no such thing as that pristine, original memory, because memory is by definition in a matter of perspective. Time has passed. So as viewers, we are simply different people when we come back. If I see a picture of me in 7th grade, I'm a long way from 7th grade. The picture's still there, but the memory is of that moment died at that moment. And I became slightly older by a millisecond or by several decades. And so the photograph, if it's trying to preserve an original memory, is from my point of view impossible. What you're doing is there's a what I don't know if you heard me typing. I just had to look up the author here. William Wordsworth has a great definition of poetry, which is strong emotion recollected in tranquility. Okay, that's what I believe happens in the photographic moment as well. We have the strong emotion, raise the camera, press the shutter release, do whatever you want. But the photograph itself is simply a kind of prompt for ourselves throughout the rest of eternity, so that when we come back to it, it's not what was I feeling then. You're saying, what am I feeling now about then? The act of viewing a photograph is always, by definition, a contemporary, right now act, I think, he said emphatically.
So Scott, okay, what happens when you look at your, you take a photograph you took, let's say, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking about some kind of exactly pre-planned,
Yeah.
but something more spontaneous, let's say some kind of a street image
Yeah.
or do you recall then, in at least in some of the cases, the exact moment and the it could have been something very special for you. I don't know what it might be. Maybe you saw a flower pot which reminded you of your mother's flower pot, whatever. But that's why you took the photo, right?
Right.
When you look at this photograph today, or some of your images, you don't get those?
I can remember the remembering, but no, I'm much older now. My mother's much older now. That flower pot's much older now. There's all sorts of narrative built into my act of viewing that I didn't have the first time I took the picture or the first time I saw it. So
I concur with Sally Mann, though. When I think of my own experience, I remember one of the first photographs I took back in 1978 or so. I was trying to make an artistic photograph of a crack in a wall with a plant growing out of it, and I remember that picture. I can almost draw it today. I remember taking it. I remember processing it in the darkroom. I remember mounting it, but I do not remember. I do not have any more the remembrance of seeing that crack. I only have the remembrance of the photograph I took and of the whole photographic process. Other parts of my life where I have memories that I didn't photograph, they are still in my head as a memory. I see them. I see what happened there. I remember it. But I think she has something there. Every time I have taken a photograph of something that interested me, what remains with me for the rest of the time is the photograph and not the memory. But I don't know.
Well, let us know what you think. Yeah, so join the discussion below. I was just wondering. There is also the next layer to it. When we look at photographs, let's say family photographs, which as long as it had been possible, of course, in terms of this technology. But let's say, okay, my father was taking photographs of his parents, my grandparents, and this, goes almost like to the next layer. I mean, I am looking at those old photographs of my family, of my grandparents, of some particular situations, let's say, and exactly, they also cause some kind of exact emotional responses in me today, whereas I even didn't know some of the people in those images. So, I mean, it's just some kind of a magic that we right.
Viewing a photograph. I want to. I almost called it the photographic moment. That sounds like taking a picture. Viewing a photograph is always an expression of now. And when you look at the old family pictures, you're looking at them with all the experience between that shutter release and this microsecond that you're looking at it again. This is also why so many of us enjoy archive diving. We start looking at our pictures from a long time ago, and we are more technically proficient. We understand what Lightroom can do better, but we're also older, perhaps wiser. We say, oh man, there was something in there I didn't see in the moment that, given experience, given the passage of time, I see now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm thinking of a photograph of me that I have in my family album when I was probably about two years old, sitting on the front porch of our house down in Mississippi, wearing my father's oversized cap, and I had the big Cocker Spaniel next to me, the porch, with my arm around it, and sitting there with just my underwear on. It's a very cute picture.
We'll take your word for it.
It's a cute picture of a child and his beloved family dog in the hot summertime of Mississippi, and I obviously cannot have a memory of that.
Right.
But I probably saw that picture. My father was a prolific photographer, family photographer, with his Brownie and all the old Kodak cameras. But I'm sure that picture was developed and became a part of our family lore already while I was 2, and was shown to me when I was 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And so I have the feeling that is my memory of sitting there with Lady, the dog. But actually, it was just my memory of seeing that photograph at some point when my memory was able to retain anything.
I think that there is probably a certain age, when we are 2 or 1 or 3, probably it's not there. But when we are, getting 6, 7 years old, 8, and then we look at the images of ourselves from that age, that somewhere in the back of our, subconscious mind, we kind of start recalling those, like, kind of, I don't know, milliseconds of.
That's what we would like to think, I think. But I'm not sure if that's really what's happening. I almost think, yeah, maybe. I mean, that would be nice if that were somehow implanted, if that memory was implanted.
Yeah. And I think it's important here that we, of course, differentiate between, when discussing this whole issue, between photographs we saw taken by somebody else, and the photographs we took ourselves. This is a completely different story, because when you are taking the image, you had some emotions in the moment, which you had really. That was the original question, right? If we remember those feelings.
And besides that, my memory of that moment, sitting on the porch step, would not have been of me and Lady, but would have been of my father holding his little box.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I don't have that memory.
And there's 2 other wrinkles. I mean, number one, Tomasz, you talk about wanting to shorten the time between recognizing something and pressing the shutter release. Your work in the last week or so has also gone for this high contrast look. It's gone for this, black. So there is an element of art making, which is what? part of memory, separate from memory? Is it a reflection of your intellectual, emotional state, last week? Are you going to be able to recall that 30 years from now? There's also, and Stephen, you talk about memories that you have. I think the cool thing is that 20, 30, 100 years later, we look at these pictures, you on the porch, whatever, and we don't try to recall the memory, but we ask from our new perspective, who the hell is that person? Do I see in that child sitting on the porch any early hints of who I've become? I think we interrogate old pictures for the echo decades later that we live in.
Yeah, will be interesting.
Just as an aside, a little in parentheses, Tomasz, you have been on a hot streak the last
Yeah.
week. I congratulate you.
Well, okay, yeah, let's,
Keep up.
Yeah, I was definitely or am in a yeah, not a bad spot. I found something. I found myself. But Scott, what you mentioned, will I remember in 20 years what I'm feeling today? November 5th, 2025. Probably not. But maybe then it's not a bad idea. And would be interesting to know if Solomon, if she was writing this memoir just now, or she had some kind of diaries going on. Because what I want to say is maybe, for example, for me now would be you gave me an idea to sit down actually with a notepad and write about my feelings next to those images today, because then in 10 years I can open it up and that's what I was going through,
Yeah.
and that's why maybe those images would even gain even more context, right? So Solomon, she wrote it like now in the 2000 something, or was she? Do you know if she was?
2014, I think.
Yeah.
But she used as her sources documents and photographs out of her family's past.
But not her own. I don't know, daily diaries or anything. You don't know if she was writing things
Her
down.
own photographs and her own memories, and perhaps her own love letters from her husband, her
Yeah.
own memory resources, as it were.
No, fascinating. Well, okay, we covered kind of extensively here too. My topic, Stevens. Scott, it's time for your part today.
Well, okay, and I'm just going to expand it a little bit more, because what we've been talking about is us looking at our own pictures. A creator and audience of one. And at least on the creative writing side, when I'm doing that work, the first thing, one of the first things you learn is that once a text exists, the least important thing is whatever the author meant. That's water under the bridge, because now you're coming to it fast or coming to it fresh. One of the things that I've been noticing recently is the disconnect between pictures that we think hold merit and pictures that our viewers think hold merit of our own work. I will post a picture to Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and I'll think, this one's pretty good. And it'll get, a nice, pat on the head, good job, Scott. I'll post a picture that I think is slightly cliche or a little overdone, or I should say, the idea has been done before, and everybody loves it. The pictures of rainbows, for example. I mean, they are cute, they're sentimental, they are overwrought, and people love them. So I'm wondering, how does our idea of merit translate? Should it translate? Should we be bothered when somebody picks up a picture we think is utterly mundane and says this is an act of grace and profundity? Is that conversation impossible?
Yeah, it's interesting, Scott. Steven, if it's okay, just quickly, because of course, it again plugs straight into my last 2-3 weeks kind of brainstorming phase and experimenting and also exactly the same, because I post images online, so looking at the reactions, right, of people. Now, the black and white high contrast thing, which is, by the way, not the first time I'm doing it in my life, because I had those phases. So I keep coming back to it for a reason, obviously, because obviously I love it, or like I like him. Now, looking at the reactions of people to those images, sure, there are some nice reactions, but on average, I would say the reaction is quieter, lower than when I post my digital Polaroid-like colorful images, which I did for a while. And what I am now, you are asking, what do we do with that, right? How do we process this? I am trying to push myself strongly these days to stick what I love doing the most, and not basing my not taking into account really too much what the reaction is. I mean,
But what
if
do you
you
do?
start set,
What do you do
sorry?
though when your audience is artistically literate? They are eloquent. I mean, they have well-formed aesthetic philosophies, and but they're saying, I'm digging this or I'm not. Is it just a matter of taste? I don't particularly like country music. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not for me. Does
Yeah,
does
I've had I've had the same experience posting pictures that I found of mine that I found cliche, kind of Hallmark greeting card style pictures. That's how what I called them, which is maybe unfair, and they are the ones that often get the most response, the most positive response. And what I've thought is, yes, everything that I make, that I'm trying to make arty photographs of, perhaps that is, we just have to realize that that's elitist, and that there is a reason why some subjects are cliche, because they appeal to us humans on a deep level. I had this experience just this week when I was here on the Lake of Geneva, and especially the first days I was go out with my camera, and I brought, I don't know, 30 rolls of film with me, and I'm going to take a lot of pictures. And I was looking for art pictures, arty subjects, and all I could do was swing my camera to the vista that everybody else on the walk was holding their iPhone up to, and that kind of bothered me. I said, okay, why am I being drawn to this same magnificence that everyone else is being drawn to? I should be being drawn to a shadow and a design and a detail or something, but I wasn't. So I think there's a kind of a basic level of human aesthetic that we resonate all to the same things.
And then
Well, Scott, you mentioned rainbows, right?
yeah.
I like looking at the rainbow, but now the question is, does it mean that? Okay, I like looking at the rainbow, but I don't necessarily have the urge of photographing the rainbow unless I photograph this rainbow in a ugly black and white
Yeah,
rough
okay.
kind of thing, right? No, but I mean, so for me, it's kind of, I would say, and I'm trying to tell it to myself very, very, often these days, really just do what you feel like doing. I mean, what else? If you start shooting rainbows because 80% of your viewers will like this image, but you don't feel like doing it, it's such a bad feeling, right? Or not?
Right.
Isn't it?
That's exactly what I said this week. I said, okay, I'm drawn to these vistas. I'm going to take pictures of these vistas because that's what I want to photograph right now. Even if it is, mundane and common.
No, but like Scott said, he was in Scotland and 17,000 people were shooting the same mountains. But your image will be different. Look at Scott's images. Nobody took those Scottish. I mean, I haven't seen this style,
Oh,
this date.
perhaps that's a warning.
No, but okay, Scott, did you take photos this way? You also went for a more contrasty look, for your
Yeah.
standards, I would say, because you felt like probably, right? Not because you were serving to anybody's taste or preferences, right?
No, you're absolutely right. I think we all do finally get to a point where we are taking photographs for ourselves, and this goes back to Stephen's original point about the insistence, persistence, decay of memory, whatever you want to call it. But we are making objects of art which are going to, with any luck, resonate to ourselves, later on, and to others. I do think photography is an act of communication. We do want an audience, not likes and that kind of stuff, but we want somebody else to have their heart and soul moved by what we see.
Yeah.
And so if our desire is to say, dearly beloved, whoever you may be on the outside, I hope this moves you, do we dare to say, and I don't give a damn if it doesn't?
Yes, of course we have to. I mean, in these last days, I've thought about that a lot. That because I'm really every day I'm out photographing all day, and I realize I'm doing this not with not a slightest thought of showing these pictures to anybody. I'm taking the pictures because I want to take the picture, because I want to use my camera, because I want to capture the moment or whatever for me. And I don't think a second about an audience. That comes maybe later in the.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, when I am now out of those streets and I'm in the zone, and of course I don't think about an audience or anybody watching them in this moment. Later, yes, I have this part of showing it, probably not for. Yeah, we need some validation. We need some. We like when people like our image. Okay, let's be honest, right? But it's maybe more about. I don't know, inspiring someone, or like, giving them the idea that you can also look at things this way, and then they will go and do it their way, right? But what I wanted to say earlier, when Scott, you were talking about this, likes and everything on social, for example, on social media, which is okay. This is we are living in those times. We are looking at likes, right? Even though you can switch them off, actually, I heard
You
on some
can?
platforms. Yeah, you can on some of the
You can.
platforms. You can,
Oh, you can
yeah,
hide them. I know that on
you
Instagram,
can
but okay.
hide them, but also you can switch. I think that for yourself, that you don't necessarily have to see. If there is some options on some of the
By,
platforms.
by
No, but
definition,
what?
nobody likes my work. Okay.
So earlier I mentioned, let's say my black and white images, the recent style compared to some colorful images, and I was getting less likes these days for them. But then I realized one thing, or I thought about one thing. I thought about, if I got, as a stupid example, if I got 7 likes, so 7 people liked my image, which is the image I like, which is I feel good with the image, compared to 58 likes on an image which I like less myself, or let's say it's more it's further away from who I am. Which of those likes are more important to me?
Yeah.
Which are more valuable? If those 7 people really like this image, this is almost like you're multiplying those likes by 100. And then I realized, yeah, so I just keep doing what I like doing. If there is 7 people who like it, I mean, this is 7 people who like it, right? So I think, you know,
In the creative writing world, we used to talk about the fact that who you're writing for, and say, well, we're writing for ourselves as readers, not writing for ourselves as writers, okay? But trying to recollect that moment when we were in the zone with some book. It was 2:30 in the morning, and we were in it not as artists but as audience. That person, that imagined self, is who I think we're photographing for ourselves, not as photographers but as viewers of photography, saying this is what moves me. I'm trying to make that.
That would be a good guiding principle for our practice.
yeah, those of you watching, let us know. who are you photographing for? Do you care about likes? Do you care about viewers? How much? Let us know what your take is on this one. Yeah, but I guess with age,
Says the young one.
probably. Yeah, well, yeah, like everyone, wherever you are, but probably people realize with time that
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I'm
you.
like you. I'm like you. When I post a picture on the Frames Facebook page that I know is not one of the pictures in the popular vein, and when I see that three people liked it, then I feel really connected to those people, and I think,
Exactly.
ah, okay, I've got some kindred spirits here in this forum who recognize what I was trying to show.
And this is three people who liked it from within, one small community. It means in the entire world, you have enough people who like your work, and usually, like you say, those kind of people, those likes, those accolades or whatever you are receiving, comments, they usually will lead to more meaningful connections, to more meaningful, maybe next steps, maybe some kind of opportunities, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's not all that dark. Yeah, the rainbows are all over the place. So yeah, nice. Well, okay. I guess so. We talked about this, right, Scott, Stephen, about the slightly out of focus our ramblings here. I guess we'll be doing it on a monthly basis from now on,
Sounds good.
because of our schedules, because of a couple of reasons. I think a monthly meeting like this, and I am planning some special guests, by the way. So yeah, it will be a nice monthly recording here on the Frames channel, right?
Sounds
Of
good to me.
our yeah.
Good.
Steven, so you said you're photographing the entire day, like those days this week?
Yeah, I tried to get out in the morning. I've finally managed to get out before sunrise this morning, which I hadn't managed up until now. But the sun goes behind the Jura Mountains, drops below at about 5:15. So what time is it now? It's 6:15. So I'm going to head out. I have a last hour of sunlight coming over the mountains,
It's
and
4:15, Steven.
it's 4:15, right? And
4:15.
the sun disappears at 5:15. So
Okay.
I still have an hour. So I've been doing
Okay.
it every day.
Okay. So you go out, take your shots. Maybe there's a rainbow. Make sure
Yeah.
that
No, no, no. But lots of
Scott,
cloud.
Scott, what are you up to?
I leave on Saturday for 10 days in the Himalayas. I'm
All
actually going to
right.
be
Oh my God.
going to
Amazing.
Nepal for a while, and I will
Wow.
actually be in the shadow of Mount Everest. I am writing a book of writing, not a photo book, about going to Everest to take one specific picture that I don't believe anybody has taken before. So
That's
that's where
great.
I will
By
be
the
for the
way,
next couple of weeks.
yeah, you reminded me. So there will be some kind of a special episode here going on because we will try to connect with Scott while he's in Nepal.
Yep.
Stephen,
And
maybe Stephen,
and
maybe you can join. Maybe you can join the call, Stephen, while he's on this mountain, on the slopes or wherever it is
Yep,
in Nepal.
I
Let's
have
try
checked
doing
out.
it.
I have checked out the Wi-Fi. It should be possible for us to have a
Wow,
conversation with Mount Everest over my shoulder.
this would be amazing.
Great.
Okay, thanks you so much, everyone, for watching. Stephen, Scott, thanks so much. Enjoy whatever you might be doing, and yeah, we talk
Talk to
again
you
next
later.
week, hopefully. Right. See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, everyone. Bye, bye.